scary, intuitive, psychic, and remote viewing data, sometimes telling tales of something catastrophic that may be looming in the future. How do you deal with information like that? How do you process it? How seriously do you take it? And what, if anything, can you do about it if you believe it to be true? Dennis Nappy II here with Sixth Sense Media and the Seeker podcast. I want to talk about some interesting data that's been flowing through the psychic airwaves, and now it seems to be blowing up all over the internet. It's related to a project that was done by the Future Forecasting Group, an organization that I'm proud to be a member of. I want to talk a little bit about some experiences here that I've had related to that. I want to stress this is just my personal opinion based on my tiny piece that I've encountered with it. But I want to start out by directing you to the Future Forecasting Group at futureforecastinggroup.com. Quick plug here for them because the work that the team puts out each and every week is absolutely incredible. I'm going to do a quick screen share here so you can see the site for yourself. It's a newer site that we've put up here that the team has put up, futureforecastinggroup.com. Here's some of us on the team here. Lots of different options available for the plan. But as Edward Reardon says, we do very good work. We do very important work. The remote viewers on the team, Dick, Daz, Naeem, and Edward, each and every week are pulling back information that you can use to help navigate this world that we're in. So recently, the team was tasked to view a target, and they all missed the target. Now, this never happens with the group. Usually at least 3 out of 4 of them, usually it's 4 out of 4, get right on target. With those of you that aren't familiar, they use a process called remote viewing. There's plenty of articles and videos out there talking about what remote viewing is, but the work that's published online is verifiable going back at least the last 4 or 5 years. And if you follow the other viewers individually, their work goes back decades, talking about the reliability of the work that they do. But it was an anomalous event. They were tasked to view an unknown target that hasn't been disclosed what the target was, but they all completely missed it. So the target was again retasked, and they all again brought back misses. But as the data was reviewed, they all told a much different story with corroborating data. So several very experienced remote viewers with great accuracy all missed the target, but all hit, it seems, a similar, different target. Why? That is a big question. So I want to talk a little bit about an experience that I had that's related to this. I wasn't assigned to this project. I wasn't tasked to be a part of it at all. I'm actually stepped into a new role with the Future Forecasting Group where I've launched a podcast. And it's been a lot of fun where I get to talk with the viewers and the members of the team. And we do deep dives into some of those mysterious sessions that are out there, or those curious data points, or the anomalies, or something that we want to know more about, some of the bigger projects. So I've done about 6 episodes so far. I believe they come out through Twitter, through YouTube. I believe they're available for in the public sector, not through the private site. Well, in addition to the private site. So it's been a lot of fun. I just had an opportunity to talk with Dick Allgaier the other night about this particular project, this particular event. The team's calling it the event that could change the world. I'm going to share something that I have come across related to this, but I want to give a caveat. I've been seeing a lot of chatter on the internet, been seeing a lot of chatter on social media. I think this data, and again, this is my opinion alone. I think this data is fantastic. I think this anomaly is very curious, and it's a fun mystery to explore. But I want to proceed with caution. What I can say is that what I'm proud of with this company is that we don't sell the fear porn. From what I've been a part of and from what I've seen with the company, we take great care in how we release information. There's a great responsibility that comes with this kind of work and this kind of information and how it is shared. it has the potential to really scare people and shake things up. In my opinion, this information should be used as a data point, as something to explore, but not something to spread panic. And I want to keep that in mind. And I have some ideas here that I'm going to share at the end of this conversation on how to balance maybe some of the anxiety that comes with information like this. So as a remote viewer, I still consider myself a trainee. I do these personal explorations every month. I do kind of an open-ended target, and I just see what I can pull back. And usually what I pull back is information that is relevant to me and my life and my personal sphere of influence, because that's really what I'm looking for. I'm just going out there to see. It's kind of like the world event sessions that the viewers do, but it's for my own personal life. And I've gained a lot of personal insights into just myself and my spiritual journey through these sessions that I've been doing. And I've gotten away from them from the past few months for several different reasons. I've talked about some of my mental health, some of my anxiety, and these sessions were starting to bring me some stress and some anxiety. So I took a step back. And the other day I was sitting here at my computer and I just got hit with a thought of like, I need to do a session. And I assumed it was because I needed to get some emotional things out of my system. And I sometimes use remote viewing to explore those emotions that I'm feeling. So I got this urge to do this session. And I sat down to do it. And I started getting some really weird data, which I dismissed as noise. I did this session on September 9th. Now, unbeknownst to me, the viewers around that same time period, I believe they were working this all around September 11th. That's when they were working this other target that they brought back, the anomalous data. What they brought back had to do with some kind of large energetic event, mass movements of people, possible military action, some political turmoil. And you can see it through the crypto viewing YouTube page. Dick has some great promos talking about the data they brought back, and obviously through the private site as well, where all of the sessions have been released. So I did my session on September 9th. I looked at it for the personal stuff through that lens and dismissed the other things as, well, that's probably my imagination. And that's what happens with these sessions sometimes as I'm developing as a viewer. And I dismissed it. And then as I was preparing to interview Dick the other night, I went through all of the data that the viewers brought back. And then I took a look at my session that I did on September 9th and realized that I also tapped into this signal, whatever it is. So I'm going to share a portion of my session and I want to talk about it. And again, I want to talk about my thoughts on how to respond to information like this that does not involve panic or being afraid. And personally, I feel that there is a responsibility to present that reminder for balance, because we don't fully understand how consciousness works. We don't fully understand the influence our emotional output has on our reality and the world around us. And I want us to be mindful of that. So I want to be quite clear. I'm sharing this information because I think it's interesting. I don't share this to create scary thoughts. So if you watch this, please watch through to the very end to balance this out, because my goal is not to scare anybody. But I do want to talk about it because it's been weighing on me. So I'm going to share my session here. And we'll take a look at it. I call this my event data. Now, I've scrubbed some of the information because there's some data points that were personal to me. So there's some redacted things in here. I've cut out some of the pages because they're not relevant to what I'm talking about. They're more relevant to me. So what's interesting about this session is all I wrote was, what do I need to know? Normally, when I task this, I write out that viewer will connect with his future consciousness at a future point in time when it's ready to, able and willing to provide viewer with information that he needs for this present point in time. So I'm in the process of trying to establish a link with myself in the future. So I'm giving myself my own feedback and creating some kind of loop to try to see how that works with reporting on my own life. It's been an interesting journey. And this time, this is all I wrote. Usually I write like a little paragraph detailing how I'm going to connect. For this session, all I wrote was, what do I need to know? So that's interesting because I've never done it just that way. As soon as I sat down, and here's my date, September 9th, 2023. As soon as I sat down, I felt a sense of anxiety and I had to get it out. I saw a crowd of people and I just wrote, large mass of people moving forward. Again, what does that have to do with me and my personal life? I don't expect to see anything like that. So I figured it was my imagination, but I wrote it down to get out of my system and I moved on. I was looking at some life forms here, some energy flow, nothing really significant. And then I get into this male life who's receiving communication, a message that impacted the heart and the solar plexus. And I looked on, and I went to explore. What I did is I went through all the chakra points, see what information I can get from this person. And then I went into what is the message. And I got anxiety. And I had to detach myself from all fear and emotion because as soon as I asked about this message, I got really anxious and I was nervous about that information. So I detached myself from the fear and the emotion. And I saw here again a message. Was it tidings of joy? I asked. Not really. Indications of change. I went to describe the change. It was a movement of life, of persons. And I wrote of able-bodied men. I see this. I know the indicators and warnings. Now, indicators and warnings is a term I picked up from the military. It's when we're seeing these things, it means it's an indicator that the opposition is going to do this. I wrote down young men, martyrdom. Okay, why is this important to me? I then saw this scene here, and I described it as a flat, depressed area surrounded by structures. I had a movement of energy that was outwards, the color red. An evacuation, I asked. And in describing the movement, I had people walking sullen, slowly, melancholy, and a feeling of it being hot. Was there grief? I saw Daz Smith smiling on Zoom. Why is this important for me to know? Deals with problem solving, an event that is forthcoming. Caused nausea, stress, and anxiety in the lower points, but I saw that in the upper points, the mind was clear. What was it? I asked, looking at this event, a movement of objects. And then I saw this scene here. Vehicles, engine sounds. I smelled gas and diesel engines, traffic. There was something choking. It was slow moving. And then I saw an aerial structure. It was noisy and low flying. I heard it just buzzing over the traffic. It was hovering right over the traffic. And then I got this intuitive call. Get out of your car. Don't hesitate. Go and trust your instinct. And I was there. I was in this traffic scene and I pictured pulling over, getting out of the car and moving away. Don't go forward. Pull over to the side. And then there's the traffic. There's the life form who in this scene, it felt like me. And what was up ahead? An event had upward energetics and it was billowing. I wrote the words as an AOL, explosion or fire. The colors, I had the word heat, and it was black and red with flames. Truck driver, trucker union, was there a strike is what I wrote. Wrote the word toxic. Okay, and that's where the rest kind of gets into my own session here. And when I was going through the team's data, I realized it was a very similar thread. The team had very similar information. And again, I'll direct you to the futureforecastinggroup.com if you're interested in seeing the rest of those sessions. Now, obviously, that could paint a very scary picture. The detail that the team brought back was, I'd say, much more detailed in what that event might look like. in seeing the conversations online, in seeing the different organizations that have picked up the story and are talking about it, I want to bring some balance to this. I can't help but to wonder why. Why did this information come forward to so many viewers? Was it that this is such what Dick and I talked about in the podcast? Maybe this was just such an emotional event that it sent a shockwave through time. Actually, that reminds me of something. I'm going to go back to my session. I think there was one more data point that I wanted to share. When I asked when, I wrote down the present, past and future are creating waves that impact this personal point in time. So I think it's possible that an event happened that could be so significant that it sends a ripple back into the past. But it's impact. They're all in communication is how I feel with that. The past, the present, and the future are communicating because these waves are going back. But why? Why is that happening? Well, I think it's a matter of perspective, and it's all in how you interpret that. The obvious answer could be, well, we're getting this as a warning so we can prepare. You can stock up, you can build a bunker, and you can start going down that road of fear. But I'm also reminded of Ingo Swann's book, Psychic Literacy. And if you haven't read it, I highly encourage you to do so. In that book, he gives several documented accounts of people who, throughout their lives, have received information about their future, about their deaths, that was terrifying. And again, this is all documented cases. And he gives examples of the people who heeded the warnings and made different choices and survived. He talks about the people who didn't understand the warnings, didn't understand how to interpret those warnings, and they died. So what does that mean for us? Well, again, you could go hide in a bunker and live your life in fear. But I want to bring us to the Maharishi Effect. If you're not familiar with the Maharishi Effect, back in the 70s or 80s, they did a study, and it was surrounding transcendental meditation. And what they found was that in cities where there was a population of 1% or greater of people who were practicing transcendental meditation, they saw a correlation between crime rates. Crime went down when the number of people meditating went up. And it only took 1% of the population to influence that change, to show the correlation to that change. Let me choose my words carefully here. So how's this relevant? What do I need to do with that? Well, we can fuel the fire of fear and amplify that signal and maybe bring that about ourselves, bring about that scary thing. But what if instead we changed our output? What if we focused on the positive things? How do we do that? Well, I'd say meditate every day, whether you're sitting there quietly and in the lotus position and just trying to clear your mind, focus on positive things, whether you're doing yoga, whether you're taking a walk in nature, these grounding exercises that keep your vibration in a neutral or positive state. Personally, I've been a huge fan of Reiki, and I've really gotten back into it over the last year and a half. And I do a daily Reiki meditation where it's all about just positive energy flow. And that's really helped me to gain some insights in my morning meditations, in myself and my life, and everything that's going on in the world. It helps me to process things a lot better. So what I suggest, what I propose, what I'm going to continue to do is not focus on that scary thing. It doesn't mean I'm turning a blind eye. It doesn't mean I'm just going to say, oh, send love and light to the situation, because I don't think it works that way. I'm going to put myself in a mindset of positivity, of love, of kindness, of compassion, of empathy. And I'm going to try to amplify that and to spread that. But how do we do that? Well, from what I've come to understand, if you sit there and you tell yourself that the universe needs more love, the universe needs more positivity, what you're reinforcing is that, well, it needs some, but you're reinforcing that there is none. That won't work. You have to feel it. You have to experience it. You have to live it. You have to be in that state. And that draws in the change you want to see. When you embody the fear, when you say this is what we need, what you're reinforcing is we need this because I'm afraid this is going to happen and I want it to change. You have to put yourself in a mindset visualizing the future you want to see, experiencing the future you want to see. But if you can't do that, then just live in the present moment, which we should all be working more to do anyway. If you have trouble meditating, then just focus on being kind. Help one person every day. Just say something nice to somebody. See that smile that comes through. Pay it forward. Do those nice things. You don't even have to be esoteric and spiritual about it. Just spread that kindness. If that's hard for you, then do something for yourself each day that makes you feel good. Because not only do we have the Maharishi effect, we have the understanding of the research, as I talk about on my show all the time, that comes out of the HeartMath Institute, the electromagnetic signal that comes out of your heart that's tied to your emotional state. Whatever your emotional state is, electromagnetic signal goes out of a different frequency, a different amplitude. So if you're doing things that make you feel good, if you're doing things that are positive, that signal is spreading. We see how quickly the negative stuff spreads. We see how quickly the negative news spreads. What if you're not contributing to that signal? What if what you're putting out is positive and caring and loving? What impact does that have? It's not easy. There's a lot of scary things, and it doesn't mean you're never going to feel fear. It doesn't mean you're never going to feel angry. But what if you can reduce the amount of that you're putting out? That makes a difference. I'm not saying don't be prepared. I think we should. I think we should always be prepared for a scary thing that could happen. But in the meantime, let's make the best of each and every opportunity that we have, of each and every moment that we have out there. Find the joy, spread the joy, be kind to one another. Agree to disagree, settle your differences peacefully, understanding that each person has their own perspective. That's how we make a difference, friends. My apologies if I sounded preachy. That's not my intention. I just don't want to put this data out. I don't want to talk about this data if I'm not offering some balance. I think it's significant and fascinating. But there has to be a reason. There has to be a reason for it that doesn't mean something bad. And that's how I'm choosing to view this. What are your thoughts? Let me know. All right, friends. Well, remember, never stop questioning, keep an open mind, and let your intuition be your guide. Thank you.